Hey, Jake with B&H. Today we're taking a deeper look into some of the newest features in Nikon's latest Z7 II and Z6 II cameras. Released at the end of 2020, the Z7 II and the Z6 II offer users a host of upgrades over their predecessors, including dual processors, offering faster speeds, larger buffer capacities, increased low-light AF, improved tracking, and much more. You can check out the original video that we made going over all the new features for both cameras in the link above. Today we're doing a combination photo-video shoot. We'll be focusing on the Z6 II for video and the Z7 II for photo. We chose a rock and roll performance to showcase the low-light features, AF tracking, and all-around speed. Our set today consists of a few colorful spotlight sources and a little haze in the air. We're going to primarily use short light, which means all of the light sources will be coming from behind off to the side of our subject and lighting up parts of our rock star that are furthest from the camera. This will create a more dynamic portrait and resemble a live music show. The haze in the air will help make the light more volumetric and wrap around our subject. Add in a spritz bottle for a little fake sweat and ready to start. We're going to be using the Z7 II to capture the scene and see how well it holds up locking onto the face and the eyes with the autofocus in this low light scenario. The Z7 II is a 45.7 megapixel high resolution camera, so we're going to have some room to compose our images and crop it in post if we want. Because we're going for a variety of poses and it will take a few tries to get the haze and water to behave correctly, we're going to utilize the camera's ability to shoot at 10 frames per second in RAW. This is a slight improvement over the Z7 model, which is able to shoot up to 9 frames per second in RAW. With such large RAW file sizes, the added second processor in the camera now lets us hold way more shots in the buffer. When using CF Express cards, the buffer size is triple that over the original Z7. We are shooting tethered today, but the camera also has a wireless tether feature that allows you to transmit images directly to a Mac or PC without the need of any third-party software. This feature obviously won't be as fast as a cable transmitting high-resolution RAW files, but this is a great feature to have when a cable isn't working or the logistics of your setup just don't allow it. Now, since we're shooting in a low-light situation, it can be hard for the autofocus on a camera to grab hold of a subject's eye. Without a bright continuous light or the aid of a frontal modeling light, an AF system can really struggle. A new addition to the Z7 II within its 493-point phase detection AF system is iDetect AF in wide area AF mode. Selecting this mode will relegate the phase in iDetect to work within the bounds of the box rather than the entire frame. This will help with composition and narrow the area that the camera needs to search. Coupled with low light AF focusing down to -3 EV, you can now focus on subjects in darker environments than you could with the first Z7. We have some ambient light coming from the modeling lights, and that should be enough for the AF to lock on. Additionally, the face and eye detect features are more sticky in the Z7 II. This means that when tracking a subject, the camera can do a better job at keeping up with the speed of the movement and hold a lock. There's a bit of head banging going on here, and the camera has stayed locked on the head really well. This enhancement is a real advantage when shooting moving subjects that you're trying to keep up with, such as sports or wildlife. We're also using the MB-11 power battery pack with the vertical grip for additional power and for ease of use while shooting in the vertical position. The shutter release, the control dials, and a function button are all in an easy to reach location. One cool feature, and this will come in handy for the video shoots especially, is the ability to hot swap a battery while the camera is in use. The outer battery can be removed and replaced with a fresh one without ever having to power down. Switching over to the 24.5 megapixel Z6 II, we're going to test out some of the same features but on the video side. The 6 II can shoot video up to 4K 60 frames per second, so we're going to capture a combination of 24 frames per second, slow motion at 60 frames per second, and 120 frames per second in HD mode. While we can capture the footage internally at an 8-bit color depth, we'll also be utilizing an Atomos Ninja 5 to output a 10-bit N-Log file via HDMI and record to an SSD drive. This will give us even more flexibility in our post-production color grades. Since we have a lot of color gradients in our shadows, we'll definitely want that flexibility. Keep in mind, when shooting in different video modes and frame rates on the Z6 II, you'll get a 1.0 times crop factor at 4K 30p and a 1.5 times crop factor at 60p. This makes the Z6 II the more attractive option over the Z7 II, since you'll be getting video downsampled from the full width of the sensor at 30 frames per second. We'll be switching our lighting setup from strobes into continuous mode since we're shooting video now. We're going to keep the lighting style the same and see how well the wide-eye AF and the face detect work in this lower light environment while in video mode. Just like the Z7 II, the Z6 II supports focusing in low light, but the Z6 II can go down to -4.5 EV and also supports eye detect AF in wide area AF mode during movie recording. Having the extra -1.5 on the Z6 II makes it the obvious choice for low light video when choosing between the pair. Right now we're capturing video in this mode, and as we move around with our subject, the AF lock stays put despite the darker image. The Z6 II also has expanded media solutions to meet the demands of high-resolution capture, redundancy recording, and a familiar card type for anyone migrating over from a different camera system. The main card slot supports one CF Express Type B card or XUD card, while the second slot can handle one SD UHS-2 card. When the MB-11 battery grip is attached, the prolonged battery life can really come in handy for longer shoot times. The hot swappability can allow a transfer of the depleted outer battery for a fresh one without having to power down the camera. This is great if you're shooting an event or anything where you need longer run times than a single battery will allow. Keep in mind that there is a roll cap of 30 minutes on the camera, so you still need to hit record when that time is up unless you're outputting to an external monitor like the Atomos Ninja 5. Beyond that, you can also upgrade the camera to output 12-bit RAW with the Apple ProRes or Blackmagic. This will really expand your post-production capabilities to the next level. Both cameras can also be powered via the USB-C connection for longer run times. If you're not using the battery grip, you can plug in an external battery pack and power the cameras for a much longer period of time. This is great for shooting things such as time lapses and long format content, such as live streams. Additionally, you can plug in an external power source directly into the battery grip via USB-C. So if the batteries on the grip run out, you're covered. There's also a useful new feature that gimbal shooters will really like. When the LCD screen is angled, the EVF is automatically powered off, so you never have to worry about the gimbal itself interfering with the functionality of the camera. You can still leave the EVF and LCD in auto switching without having to manually turn it off. And if you're coming from another camera system, there's a new feature that allows for the reversal of the manual focusing ring. Another useful feature with the firmware upgrade is the ability for the camera to remember the lens position after the camera is powered off and then back on. In the previous model, when the camera was powered down, the lens would automatically jump to infinity focus when powered back on. This could be a real pain if you need to power down to swap a battery and you don't want to have to refocus on a subject. So there you have it. The Z7 II and the Z6 II have something for every kind of content creation out there, whether it be high-resolution image capture, low-light video, time lapses, live streams, and more. But what do you plan on making with the Z7 II and the Z6 II? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Jake with B&H. Just keep rolling.